Hey everyone, welcome to our fifth session of Voices for Justice youth-led series. The purpose of our Voices for Justice is to lead and to support the leadership and development for EPA youth on racial justice, collective power, and community engagement. I want to say thank y'all all for joining us today, and for the people who will be seeing it later on when it will be posted. I want to introduce myself. My name is Helen Fehoko. I am 18. I'm currently enlisted in the Marine Corps. And I'll just hand it off to Jen to introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica Dowell. I am 16 years old. I'm a junior in high school.
And now I'll give it to Miss Alici Tulua to give us our questions for today.
Thank you, Helen. And then thanks, ladies, for allowing me to be part of this conversation with both of you. Our topic today is to talk about COVID. And the reason why we're having this conversation is because we have so many young people, especially, we had a lot of young people that helped in doing outreach work for COVID in East Palo Alto, and that includes Helen here and Jen. And so we're hoping to have this conversation because we know the holidays are ahead of us. And although a lot of the work that our young people have been doing in outreaching for COVID have helped to vaccinate the community, we know that there's an effort around making sure to encourage people to get their booster shots, because research is showing that the initial vaccines wear off after 6 months. And then we know that the holidays are ahead of us, and it's a time where our communities gather. And so I think it's a really important conversation to have, just to bring COVID-19 back up top of mind for our community. I mean, also just to highlight the work that our young people have done in the past 20 months to contribute to the communities, and then hear from them about their experiences. So thank you for having me. So I'm just gonna go through these questions, and, if you two, share thoughts and you want to ask each other questions, feel free to do that. I want this to be more of a conversation rather than an interview. So thanks for being here. So the first question is just, can you talk about what role you played in COVID outreach in the community, and how did you get into those roles? We'll start with Helen.
I'll say the role I played was like getting people to know and like where to get vaccinated, why they should get vaccinated, and type of stuff like that. But the reason why I got into it was because of one EPA, but also Anamatangi. With OEPA, I started phone baking, and it was not okay because there were some rude people on the phone. No offense, but it gave me the opportunity to realize, to outreach to our community, you really have to let them know like what's going on. Hey, you could get vaccinated, or why not? They don't want to get vaccinated. But it gave me the opportunity to like speak more to my community, but also learn new things on like, I never knew how to phone bank until OEPA and Anamatangi showed me how to. It was a great opportunity with them, even though like there were some rude people on the phones, and some of them, most of the numbers didn't work. But that's not the point. The point is the outreaching and letting the people know like the importance of getting vaccinated and stuff like that. But the reason why I mostly got into it was because I see my parents and like how my parents have health conditions. And I want to tell people who have like health conditions like my parents that they could get vaccinated. Another layer of safetyness would just help them be more safe in this world because of what's going on through COVID.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Helen.
So this is the same as Helen. How we were phone baking. We also did door knocking. But I also started it with one East Palo Alto and Anamtangi. So we were doing some phone baking and door knocking. Um, just like Helen said, there was rude people, but that's not the point. Um, um, I also had the courage to also learn about the COVID because some of my family they also died from it. So it was like going out there and talking about like, oh, why you should get the vaccine, why it's good for you. Because I mean, everyone had like their opinions, but at least giving the information for them to understand what the vaccine is.
Thanks, Jen. Hi, Ine. Thank you for joining us. We just got started, and so thank you for being a part of this. And we're just going to pull you in. We're just going over our first question, and what I was just asking was, what was your role in doing COVID outreach in the community, and how did you get involved in it? But before you answer that question, it'd be great if you can introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself in case folks that are watching this episode aren't familiar with who you are already from previous conversations.
Yeah, hi everyone. Sorry I'm late. My name's Helena Gru. You all can call me Ine. I'm a current sophomore at Menlo College, majoring in marketing. On my free time, I work with Nuestra Casa as an environmental justice fellow and have a bunch of other gigs in like social media marketing. And I'm glad to be here. And to answer your question, the way I was engaged with COVID outreach is I didn't do a lot of like vaccine work, but I know during the COVID time period that I did a lot of COVID rent relief outreach. So I helped community members in East Palo Alto, Redwood City, North Fair Oaks, and Bellhaven fill out the application in order to gain help to pay their rent if they couldn't afford it at those times. I did that because I know it's hard sometimes to get in touch with your landlord because your landlord had to be a part of it. And so I know it's hard sometimes to get those applications, those long applications in. And sometimes there's language barriers, there's technology access barriers because it was online. And so that's some of the outreach that I did throughout, that time period. But yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I think it's really interesting that that was part of the work, that a lot of our young people that did COVID outreach were really bringing information to community about COVID and why it's impacting our community. Also, when we had testing clinics, they would share information. And then when the vaccine came out, there was a lot of outreach to make sure that our community was getting vaccinated. But what you're sharing, Ine, is a reminder that COVID impacted so much more than just our health as community, but it also impacted things like housing, employment, education for our students were impacted. And so, the work that we were doing in community went beyond just the testing and vaccinations, but also helping our own community navigate those long applications that usually discourage our community from getting the resources that they need. So thank you for sharing that really important role that a lot of our young people really had a hand in not beyond just educating our community about COVID itself, but also helping with the support services. My next question is, what is your perspective of COVID-19 at the moment, given what you've gone through and given what you've watched the community go through and all of the work that you've done? What is your perspective of COVID right now and where the community is maybe?
I know that my perspective of COVID, like before, like start of COVID, it was kind of like, oh, getting out of school, like it's a virus that like that's happening, but I never get sick, so why would I get sick now? I've never had COVID, but then later on, like my mom got COVID, and it made her really, really sick. She was really, really weak. She couldn't eat food. We couldn't be next to her. Even my dogs couldn't be next to her because I heard like one of my friend's dogs had got COVID and passed away. So like even my dogs couldn't be next to her, and she couldn't eat hard foods. It was all soup, and even when she wanted soup, couldn't like her appetite wasn't there. And so I've known family members to have COVID before, but I guess she got the Delta variant. So that was why she was really like weak. But she had went to Stanford, and from there, like she was on ventilator for a long time.
Wow.
She had to go back to the hospital. So that really opened my eyes, and I really seen like, oh, like this Delta variant is no joke. But luckily I was vaccinated, but then I learned that you can still get COVID. And so that really changed my eyes, like, oh, this thing is real. And then also I what am I trying to say? It also opened my eyes to our healthcare system. Like during COVID, I know some other people who it was kind of interesting to hear their story that they had got the same Delta variant as my mother, but they were kicked off the ventilator faster than her. And so they only had a day on the ventilator, and then it's like, oh, like you're gonna die. Or it was kind of really like very like straight to the point, like you can't be on this ventilator anymore. And so that opened my eyes to like our healthcare system, like we don't have enough ventilators, and different care that people get depending on the area code. Like Stanford's in one of the richest cities in the world, and you see how the care you get there, where there was extra time for my mom to be on a ventilator for almost 2 weeks, to Oakland, California, where a Black woman only could get a ventilator for a few hours that day and then was kicked off with no other care to go to. So that really opened my eyes in comparison to see how different cities were kind of treated with when like these cases came around. And like that's like where I'm at now, like opening my eyes to see like this is like a real problem, and it opens a deeper problem in like our healthcare system in the United States. So yeah, that's kind of where my head is about it right now. And I know there's like a lot of talk about like vaccines, but like I'm the only one in my family vaccinated, and I have no problem with them not being vaccinated. But I know I did it for school and just to do it to be safe. But yeah, I know that's like a hot topic right now. But even after my mom got COVID, she never went to go get the vaccine either. So I don't know.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I think you bring up some really great points that I hope to touch on after I give Helen and Jen a chance to answer the question. So thank you so much. You have some really powerful points here that I hope to go back to. Helen and Jen, what's your perspective of COVID-19 at this point?
For me, I feel like there's way too many stories going around, especially on social media. There's like too many talks about the vaccine, and then about how COVID is a myth in a lot of ways. Also, especially when we just now recently got COVID for our first time in Tonga, and so many people are just now finally going to get vaccinated because they got COVID. And I was like, it made me think, like, why wouldn't you get the vaccine before? Well, what was holding you back to get vaccinated and stuff like that? And then as soon as the COVID hit Tonga, there was lines at clinics of so many people finally getting vaccinated. And it's just like, wow, you wouldn't get it before COVID got there, but now that COVID's there, you got it. And then Also is like all of the deaths that have been going on in my family. Like there's so many people dying from COVID or all around the world from my family. And it's just like we went from a normal living life, from like going outside the house, going out with a mask, being able to travel places without getting like vaccinations or like getting the test results of you making sure that you don't have COVID or anything like that. It's crazy how our world has changed into like a structured place of being masked. And it's crazy how it went by so quickly. It's been like what, 2 years now?
Almost.
Almost 2
Two.
years.
Mhm.
And it's just so quick. Like a whole wide world is changed due to a pandemic that just recently hit us.
Mhm.
And it's crazy how like our schools are just now going back into reality schooling in person, and there's still kids getting COVID at schools too, because we're open back to so many people going back to new things and stuff like that. But right now I just feel like there's so much things going on in our world that our governments and a lot of people are still not really aware about,
Mm.
especially about the vaccine. Like people are so blinded about what's really going on that they don't see what's like causing the vaccines to like show up the way that they are and stuff like that. I just feel like if people have more resources and know more what's going on, they will be more involved in getting vaccinations and things
Mhm.
like that. That's my point of view.
Thank you, Helen. Welcome, Lenny. Thank you for joining us. I'm gonna.
Hi.
Hi.
Sorry for
Uh,
being late.
No problem at all. We know that you all are busy, so just really appreciate you making time to join us. I'm going to give you a chance after Jen answers this question to introduce yourself, and then I'll get you caught up on the questions that we've answered so far. So I'm just gonna give you a chance to settle in, and then I'll go to Jen. The question I'm asking them right now is, what is their perspective of COVID-19 right in this point in time, knowing what they know now? And so I'm going to come to you after I hear from Jen, and then we can go from there.
Okay, thank you.
So when I heard about this COVID, I mean, I heard it was like spreading, but in my head I was like, oh, it's probably like some type of flu, like we all get colds. This is like, it was in March, so it was like, yeah, it's like not that bad. It's not gonna spread. But then like later on, my family we all ended up getting COVID. My dad, my mom, and me. My dad was like pretty like, it wasn't that bad, but it was just like he couldn't really like eat. He couldn't really like, he was just in the bed all the time. So it was like, it was just shocking because like, we all get like the flu and like the smallest thing, like, sneezing and sniffles. But I think like, we go out with masks, we forget because, we're still not used to it, even though it's about to hit 2 years. But, we still, some people don't believe like, oh, it's fake and all. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what everyone else says, like as their opinion, but like this is real because one of my family on my mom's side, they don't believe in the vaccine. And my auntie, she ended up she died from it, and she was perfectly fine. And then she just all of a sudden she died from it. And it was just like, this is like real, like this is real, like all eye-opening to everyone. So it's like, it's still crazy. Like some people, even though they have the vaccine, they still go without masks. So like, even though you already have COVID, like you still have to wear a mask, vaccine, and everything.
Thank you for sharing that, Jen. Lenny, I'm going to come to you. So if you can introduce yourself really quickly, just tell us a little bit about who you are. And then the first question that I asked was to talk about your role, what role you played in doing COVID outreach in the community. And then if you can answer that, and I'm just going to compound all these questions and then share your perspective of COVID-19 right now in this point in time.
Okay, so my name is Keiki Lenny. I'm a freshman at Eastside College Prep in EPA. I'm sorry, what was the first question was like, what did I do for COVID outreach, right?
Yeah, what was your role?
So basically it was vaccine clinics. Me and a few other members at Anamatangi, we would go and like give flyers and just spread awareness. And were like aware that COVID had an impact on people when it came to jobs. Like lots of people ended up losing their jobs and stuff like that. So we'd also spread awareness about rent control programs within the area. So yeah. And my perspective on COVID-19 is like, it was honest, I think for everybody it's a really devastating time right now. Lots of people lost their jobs, and a lot of people had to adjust to doing everything at home. And I think that ended up like for us, especially me, that taught me how to be myself, or not be myself, or like how to be by myself, which was something hard to learn. And oftentimes, like it just felt lonely. But also another thing too, I think it was hard for everybody because Donald Trump, I would say, like he really politicized this whole pandemic. And like, you know how he basically like brainwashed Republicans into saying like, oh, the vaccine's fake, this and that, and spreading like untrue theories and stuff. I like that didn't help the pandemic at all. And honestly, like there are a lot of people who are a lot of Trump supporters who aren't getting the vaccine, which I think is like also having like a big impact on communities and stuff like that too. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for sharing that perspective, Lenny. I think it's really important to hear how, you know, the things that all of you have learned by doing this work in community during this time. So all of you have offered some really interesting perspectives. Great. Now I forgot what question I was going to ask. Okay, I have it now. I think it was really important. All of you had a hand in different parts of COVID-19 education. And even, you know, many of you did it, all of you did it in different ways. Some of you did like, you know, phone banking education, in-person education at events, and also just through your own family interactions. I'm sure you were doing some education there within your own families. So given the fact that this was highly politicized, which ended up being a huge difficulty in giving people information about COVID because there was so much misinformation out there that spread so quickly because of social media, we weren't just doing regular kinds of education. You were doing education on top of having to combat a lot of misinformation that's already out there. So it's like double duty in education. And then, you know, what Ine was sharing, something that is a little bit more on the systems level, right? So you were probably doing a lot of education about like, you know, vaccines and how COVID-19 spreads and the things you need to do to be safe. But, you know, I really appreciate what Ina shared about what she ended up realizing about the healthcare system, about the fact that there are, you know, there are differences in the healthcare system and the way that they work, depending on what kind of neighborhood you're in. So I guess my question, that's a long-winded way of asking a question. My question is, given all of the different levels of difficulty or the different levels of education that you have to do for the community, how would you suggest doing community education moving forward? So, I mean, we're seeing COVID rise in some states already, and people and our public health officials are anticipating that there will be a rise in COVID infections because of the winter months and the holidays. Do you have any thoughts about like what are ways that we can do COVID education, whether it's around rent assistance or vaccination clinics or testing? What do you think are some things that you learned that we can do better in educating our community?
For me, I'll say like a lot of people are on social media, especially like Facebook, Instagram, probably Twitter, to spread it more on social media. I feel like I barely even see it on social media. Like it would be a few seconds of like, hey, get vaccinated, and that's it. Like, what are we supposed to learn from getting that? Like, I legit did not learn anything from you just telling me to get vaccinated. Like,
Mhm.
and then I just feel like if we had like more platforms on there to like, hey, let me tell you why you should get vaccinated and the importance of why getting vaccinated. And then like a link that says like, and if you need any help with like living situations or anything like that, there's those type of social medias that could help. But I feel like not a lot of those social medias are out there yet
Mm.
because like they're still building up to getting there and stuff. But like if we could get more social media platforms out there, it would be good.
Great. Thanks, Helen. So we just need to get the message out more broadly on social media. Go ahead, Ine.
Yeah, I think social media is good for, like our techie generation, like the younger generations. But I know for like our seniors and our old school people, I know just like being um, conveniently in the way of them. So like maybe like supermarkets and where they shop every day, maybe at the bus stop is one way that I know. At work is one way we do outreach, is like sitting at the bus stop, because a lot of I know a lot of seniors go there, a lot of people who don't have access to cars, or even just like on the street, like foot traffic and things like that, are even like huge flyers. Like, so like just to get it in their minds, like even at OEPA, I know like for a lot of like our summer jobs, I know like the one tactic that is really good is just having big old posters everywhere, and I think that's a really good tactic. But yeah, like being away, like if they're going to food somewhere to eat every day, like going to a restaurant, just putting that poster there. I think just like studying your audience and seeing like where they're going. I know like if we're going for like East Palo Alto, I know a lot of people outreach to the senior center for our seniors folks. I know that Target is our Target in Cardenas is our only grocery stores, and so I know a lot of people go there too. So I think just like studying really who your people are and who your target is, and then like kind of like stalking them, but not stalking them. Just knowing like where they're going to be to, pitch what we're trying to teach them. Because even I know some people, like even though what we're trying to teach them is for their own good, it's like you have to like convince them that it's for their own good. So
Right.
yeah.
Thank you. Spoken like a true marketing student. Lenny and Jen, how about you two?
I agree with like what Helen and Ina had to say. I think that we do have to aim towards, or at least know the demographic that we're aiming towards, and getting to know like what are people's interests and like how can we actually get them interested in getting vaccinated. I also think it's like a reallocation of resources too, like really looking at places that don't have enough resources and making sure that we like give them the proper information that they need, while also giving them like the resources and like the pop-up clinics, because I think that that's helped a lot in EPA, just doing the outreach there and also having like the clinic somewhere that's local, like at St. Francis, and just doing things for the community and just like trying to educate the public. I think that that helps a lot. And yeah, social media too, that would also aim towards like younger people, because that's just what we're interested in now. So yeah, I like everyone's ideas.
Thanks, Lenny.
I'm just gonna add on what everyone said. The social media part, yes. I mean, there's like some facts that aren't really like true, but like people still believe them. So I mean, because everyone believes other things, like we all don't believe in the same thing, but like at least still inform them a lot on social media, because everyone is always on social media like every minute, like free time, social media. Might as well read at least an article or like something,
Mhm.
What else? Yeah, also like putting up big posters, cause like, what was I gonna say? Sorry, I blanked out. Yeah, just like having posters around, to catch their eye, something, um, some people are interested in that, because you don't know who's going through things like you want to know more about like, the vaccine and how you want to prevent it for you and your family. But yeah.
Thanks, Jen. So I'm hearing some really great things here. One is we need to be more effective using social media, and not just, and making sure that it goes out through multiple different kinds of outlets. So it's not just coming from like a few people. But also we need to put out better information on social media. So not just saying, hey, get vaccinated, but actually giving a lot of educational information on social media. And then the other aspect is really trying to figure out how to how to meet our people where they're at, literally. We know that they go to Target. We know that they go to Cardenas. We know that they probably go to church at this point. So making sure that we figure out like, where can we bring information to people in person, and not just one time, but knowing that like our folks, it takes a few different times, few different ways of giving information for them to embrace it even, or to be open to it. So knowing what we know now, we're about 20 months sitting in this pandemic. And I know a lot of the work that has gone into even just making sure our community is protected, we have had to think of it in the moment. Like, what can we do right now to make sure people get vaccinated? We have the booster shot ahead of us because, as we continue to learn more about the science of the virus, the researchers are saying that the vaccines, after about 6 months, its effectiveness starts to wane or decrease. And so I think this is going to be another part of our work, is to encourage people to get their booster shot. So knowing what we know now and having gone through the experiences you've gone through in educating our community, if you could look ahead and think about the work that's ahead of us, what are some things that you think we should be thinking about? What are some lessons that you've learned that you think we can improve on moving forward about our community?
Would it be okay if I like answered it?
Yeah, go ahead.
So basically, like you're saying, the question is like, what are some lessons that we've learned because of the pandemic?
Yes.
I really think it's being open-minded and also being willing to open up conversations within your own family, because like you have to educate other people in order to get the vaccine, and also like you have to open up your mind to like all this new research and stuff like that, because it's like, sorry, I'm just gonna take a little minute, but like during this time and during this pandemic, like I feel like I've learned so much, and like by staying indoors, like you get to know yourself even more and the people around you. And it's kind of like opening up conversations. It does take a lot of bravery, because not only do we have to talk about, getting the vaccine, how can we stay safe from COVID, or how can we keep our other family members safe from COVID, but it's also like, and to some degree, we also have to open up political conversations because of Donald Trump. And on top of that, like we had to have more conversations on mental health and awareness on mental health. And like for a lot of communities, well, I should say, especially like people of color, that's a hard thing to do, to open up conversations with other family members. And so like, that's just something that I've learned, especially during this pandemic, is really communication, and also like self-education, because you can't always trust what Fox News says. Like, so yeah, that's really it. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Lenny. And I think to add on to what you said, I'm just thinking about something Ina shared. We also need to have a conversations about the healthcare system and the way that even how racism plays into the way medical care is delivered through our healthcare systems, right? Why do hospitals in communities of color have less resources than other hospitals? Those kinds of things. Go ahead, Lenny.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just trying to remember. Yeah, like opening up conversations about that and like the stigma that it causes for our communities, because that's why it's also hard for us to, get not only get the proper medical care, but it's also like, I mean, like acquiring insurance and stuff like that. Unfortunately, because of like systematic racism, but
Mhm.
also it's like the history of how doctors would gain their research by doing experiments on slaves and believing that us Black people, we didn't feel like the same amount of pain as white people. That just creates such a big distrust with people of color and the medical system, and that's also something that we do need to talk about and really bring to the table.
Amen. Thank you.
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, the question is, given everything that you've gone through and learned, what are some things that you feel like, what are some lessons learned that you have that you feel like we can improve on moving forward?
Come back to me.
Mhm.
I'll go. I'll say that my mental health, like during this pandemic, it's showed me how important it is in like so many communities, especially how a lot of people say it's taboo. Like, why are you feeling this? You shouldn't be feeling this. We give you everything and stuff like that. It gave me the opportunity to speak about my well-being, but also like help other people to find themselves. It gave me the ability to just like find me, but also like improve myself in many other ways. It also gave me the ability to like learn more about what's going on in our world widely, especially politically. Like, so many governments in this world are like, so how do I say it? You know what? Let me not say it because that's not a good word. Okay, I'll say like there's so much things going on in different type of governments that like not many people can see what's going on because they're not getting the right information. There's no one speaking up about it, and there's no one speaking up about it. But also I feel like if people were just more educated about things, we'll have a better way of seeing other people's perspective in other ways.
Thank you, Helen. So we still need to
Um,
improve on educating our community. So go ahead, Jen.
um, I just have a question. Oh, okay. So, like, what I learned, opening up to people, starting conversation about things, like, especially with COVID, because, like, that's, like, highly big topic for people to talk about. But just, like, coming out of your comfort zone, being yourself, telling everyone about COVID, what you think, basically telling your stories. So everyone, to see what, like, oh, she's gone through, like, I want to inform myself about these things, especially to my family. And also about our government. Our government is not like, oh, I want to say the word, but no. It's just the government is supposed to help us with what we need, but it's almost like a self-centered government, not helping others, money and stuff, and not for the people,
Mhm.
Um, because I just had this. Why do you guys count us in the census, but really when we ask for something, they don't do it? Like anything in particular what we need in our communities, especially in like different states, in California, we have like not the most money, but like, all these top colleges and like all these um organizations and stuff that are like cost, like, I don't know, you know what I mean. But we're still trying in our community, especially in East Palo Alto, we're still trying, either forming with other programs like from Oakland or other Bay areas. But it's like, since the government can't do anything, why don't we just do it ourselves? So like
Mhm.
teaming up together as like a group, as a village, you know?
Oops, I think thank you so much, Jen. I totally, I think what I'm hearing from what you said is that our communities are the ones that are actually um, holding the work that is best for our people and our families, and we don't always get the resources that our communities need. And since a lot of those resources are held are in the hands of government, even if they do have good intentions, it doesn't always end up in the community where the work actually happens most effectively. So I hope that I heard what you were saying correctly. Um, so I want to go over to Ine if you're ready to share.
Yes, I think I understand your question. And I would say the, you mean like the thing we have to work on, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
Like I think we already have it really strong, but I think we can, like, I think it's the fact of retaining it is like, well, this is specifically for East Palo Alto, but like the family culture of like helping a neighbor, like
Mhm.
when everything was going crazy. I know that my neighbor, brought some things over, and because like honestly, like going to the stores, it was like, it was busy or I wasn't busy.
Mm.
And so like and when it wasn't busy, I mean they didn't have anything
Have
because it was
anything that
really
you
busy
need.
before. And I
Yes.
think I like at sometimes I forget how, like, how we had to wait in line to go into Walmart, like we had to be limited amount of things. And I think the thing that I wanted most was my family around me. And I know because of displacement, like I have no family near me
Mm.
at home. So it was really relying on like my neighbors bringing little things like napkins and toilet paper, because for some reason toilet paper was out everywhere. And I had it, but it was still, it's missing from since I was younger. And so I feel like, if I still had my grandparents down the street, or if I still had that loving neighbor next to me, then I feel like it wouldn't have been as hard. It would have been like an outlet for resources, or even somewhere to go when someone in the house has COVID. But I think that's one thing, just like in East Palo Alto, is not necessarily building it, but like retaining the loving, nurturing community we have like Jen was saying, like it takes a village, and I feel like we have to retain that village and keep the resources going for us, through us. I guess that was what I'm trying to say. But like making sure we're helping one another, and like even today, I know that my neighbor brought over some supplies that she was giving us, and surprisingly, it was actually something my mom needed from the store. And it was like, you just like killed my mom. You killed my mom ride to the store, like saved her gas and money. So it was really nice. And I think that answered your question.
Yeah, I love that. I think sometimes, like some of the answers to this question was really about like we need to make sure that the government, like the government, is accountable to the communities they're supposed to serve, and that like there are some systems that we need to change. And but I think all the way down to like the family structure and community, your answer is about really how we build relationships with each other as people who live in the same community. That it needs to be beyond just we exist in this city together, but it's actually a family unit. And so that speaks really loudly to part of why we're doing Voices for Justice, is we want to build collective power, and collective power just means that we're invested in each other enough to care about each other's lives. And so everything that you all are sharing, because even the idea of having a collective voice as a community, that's about making sure that we have collective power, and that we're able to hold government or government entities accountable to making sure that they take care of our community as their responsibility. So thank you all for answering that question. So I'm going to go to my last question. And let's see. So knowing that the pandemic is still here, I don't know how long, I don't know how you all feel about it, but I don't feel like it's going to go away anytime soon. We might have to just live with it as part of the new world. But so my next question is, so imagine yourself 5 years from now. How do you imagine your role in the community? And I know like this isn't necessarily like COVID related, but being as all our lives are shaped by COVID at this point, where do you see your life in 5 years? And what do you think you'll be doing to contribute to the community that you all just spoke of right now?
I'll go. So me in 5 years, what I picture myself as is that I'm gonna come back from the military and build my own nonprofit, but also I'm gonna reach out more to the youth. And I'm gonna reach out more to the youth and all of the things that really need attention in this community, but also in many other communities, especially like if I could make my nonprofit go around the whole entire like Bay, that would be cool. That's what I want to do. Like make sure people know like there's these resources that you could be getting into, and you're just sitting at home. Like you could be getting into these little things, but if you had the resources and like the type of information that people need to know about these resources, I want to let people know like, hey, since you're not doing anything at home, you could be able to like sign up for all of this, get money for rent. And throughout this pandemic, like if you need diapers or anything, let me know. I'll come through. Like I'm up for the drive. Like I'll come to you if anything, if you don't have any transportation. I want people to know, like, even though I'm a nonprofit organization, I want them to feel like we're family.
Yeah.
No matter what. I don't want you to feel like I'm a government official or anything. I want to show you the love that a family member will show you.
Great. How old will you be then, Helen?
Hopefully I'm still young and coming out there. Yeah.
You'll be in 5 years,
like
how old will
20
you be?
something.
Yeah, that is still young. So you got lots of time to do all those things that you've shared. Thank you so much.
So in 5 years, I will be 22.
Wow.
I feel that feels old, but no.
It is not. It's not old.
No. Well, I think it's for my siblings because my siblings was born in East Palo Alto, so like right now they're not really like knowing what's going on besides knowing like of COVID. Like I have to be safe, I have to be healthy. But like also getting like my siblings involved, with doing this type of work, showing them what I learned when I was, this age
Their
right
age.
now. And also, doing the same thing as Helen, helping others, just like Anamatangi Polynesian Voices, like we don't really get paid for it, but we do enjoy doing it for other people, not just for ourselves, but just helping others. That's just the main thing, whatever someone's going through, we'll be there, whatever resources they need, we'll be there. Because this pandemic, it really just messes up with their mind, especially with jobs. It's hard getting jobs because of this pandemic. Especially you have to get vaccines to get the job. Like, no. But yeah, I just want to like have my whole family involved with this. Because 5 years from now, it's gonna be so different than.
Yeah. Thank you, Jen. I think you're part of a legacy of people that have built the next generation of community leaders, and I'm not surprised that that's also something that you're thinking about, is continuing to build the next generation of people that are going to be serving our community. So definitely not a surprise that that's in your mind because of the legacy you come from, with the family you come from doing work in community. So thanks. How about Lenny and Ine?
So like in 5 years from now, I'm still a freshman. I'm like really
Nice.
young. I'm be 19. But something that I'm like thinking about is lately I've been like watching documentaries on Dolores Huerta and Cesar Chavez and how they created the movie, the workers union together. But the thing is, like, I watched the movie that was made and I compared it to the documentary about Dolores Huerta. And like something that I noticed about them is like, what's the word for it? I'm gonna just use the word morals,
Mhm.
or how they created the movement. It was like inspired by this idea that like they needed to put themselves back into the front line, like meaning
Wow.
Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta, like they moved out of comfortable homes and purposefully put themselves like in the fields with other workers. Like they struggled and they wouldn't know like when their next meal would come, but they did it so that they would understand their people
Mm.
and like help and gain people in order to like fight for their movement. And so my idea is like I'll probably be in college, and like part of me growing up, like I always wanted to be like famous and rich, but now it's like I don't need to do that. Like I don't need to prove myself to other people. And maybe I'll be starting college and I want to become an English teacher and become a resource for other children in communities that need help or that need more resources or more people who will just help them push. So yeah, and I won't be making, I won't be the richest person in the world, but it's like that doesn't, at the end of the day, that doesn't really matter to me because I was fortunate enough to have a lot of good teachers that really helped me. So yeah.
Thank you, Lenny. Well, you know what they say, teachers shape our future because, they're the ones that shape the lives and the minds of our young people. And why I'm really inspired by your words and your perspective. You definitely speak like someone who has way more experience and knowledge than 14 years old. So if this is what our future will look like, as those of you that are here with us, I'm inspired by what will be ahead of us. Ine, you can go ahead and close us out.
Yeah, Lenny, you could definitely be the richest person in the world. It doesn't come overnight. It could be on accident, but English teachers can get rich too.
Yes.
But like in reality, well, in 5 years, I would love to buy a home or lands in East Palo Alto and have a big old house and 5 cars and have a big business in East Palo Alto and employ everybody I know and all my family and all the people of color here and have a big like family here. But like in reality, like, it's kind of bittersweet that like, if I can even afford to come back to this place, like to connect it back to COVID. I know that, the media likes to put out that everyone's losing money and everybody was going broke during COVID, but big companies were still making money. We're still like applying for government small loans when they're a big business and taking all the money from, us, that money that's supposed to go to us. So while the richer were getting richer, that's when a lot of people were buying their homes. And one thing I noticed is like staying in the house a lot to going on a walk outside is like, I have new neighbors and I didn't know. So like, it was weird to just like go outside one day and I see all of these non-people of color outside and I'm like, I've never seen this a day in my life on this street. Like just walking out like casually and I'm like, this is like, we love it, but like we're open to everyone, but like it's like I didn't even notice you were there. Like so like a bunch of people buying their houses while other people can't afford rent and people getting kicked out so their landlord could sell their house to people who can afford it. So I know that's one thing that I really want like on is like people who can't afford their rent during COVID, okay, kick you out, and someone who can pay the rent is going to live here because I'm not losing my money. So like just to connect it to COVID, it's like even if I can afford to live here, I would love to, but in reality, like am I going to be able to afford it? Am I able to come home from college one day and not be afraid that my mom is getting kicked out? Because we don't own land anymore. My grandpa used to own, my family used to own more than 3 houses in East Palo Alto. And in the past 5 years, you know, they all just went pew out
Wow.
into the wind. So like I would love to come back in East Palo Alto, keep the legacy going, to teach, you know, the young kids about things that went on in East Palo Alto. Like for example, like I had a family, we had a family fire on my dad's side, and it killed more, like I think it was 9 people in the house on Fordham. And you know, during COVID, someone bought that house, and well, before COVID, but then during COVID, they remodeled the house. Looks very different. You know, you wouldn't even know that, you know, 9 people lost their lives there. And, you know, you wouldn't even know that it wasn't even their fault they lost their lives there. It was, there used to be like annual celebrations when the fire truck would come out to the house and teach people to not have, I don't know if you guys know about it, but people used to have like the gates on their windows to like, so people wouldn't rob them. And you know, that's a fire hazard, that, and a lot of people still have those things on their windows in East Palo Alto, but that's a fire hazard because in the fire, people couldn't get out because it was blocking the window. And so that's one thing that our family did for a good cause in East Palo Alto, and gentrification killed it. And, you know, how do we get the word out for people to not make the same mistake, you know? And so like in reality, I would love to come back and keep major things like that going. But, you know, on the role that our city leaders are getting us in, and the Ravenswood Business District plan, that's gonna like kill our community. And in 5 years, it won't look the same in all reality. But, you know, I hope like our community, you know, people like me who are real community leaders, like will lead us to a better place in the near 5 years. And so people like Lenny can come back, and Helen can come back and make their nonprofit organizations and have East Palo Alto be East Palo Alto again.
Thank you so much, Ine. Well, you know, we know we'll keep tabs on you to see where you are in 5 years. And I know that you do a lot of work outside of your nonprofit work, contributing to the community. So keep us in the loop about your businesses. And one way that we can continue to empower our communities to invest in our communities. And so, you know, young people like Ine who have small businesses and all of this work happening, keep us in the loop so we can continue to support your growth, because we know that the future of the community depends on the growth of our young people. And I encourage all of you to stay connected to a lot of the initiatives that Ine talked about that have the potential of changing the community. I think that young people from East Palo Alto have a lot to say and have a lot of power that can contribute to some of these processes that are happening. Redistricting is happening, which, you know, potentially shifts power away from our community. So I encourage you to look out for some of those opportunities to get involved and contribute your voice to those processes to make sure that the community that you live in continues to be a community that is defined by all of you that live there. And so with that, I just like to end our conversation today. Thank you, all of you, Helen, Jen, Lenny, and Ine. Thank you, all of you, for the work that you do and the ways that you inspire all of us in the community to continue to build this community for something that you can step into in the near future. Thank you for being here and sharing your thoughts and your ideas. And I wish you all the best moving forward, and I wish you and your families great health. And I am really excited that all of you have touched on the goals and of this project, Voices for Justice Leadership Institute, is that we want to make sure that we uplift the voices of our community so we can continue to build power. We want to make sure that we are addressing issues that centers justice, specifically racial justice. And we want to make sure that our young people are engaged in community so we continue to be connected to what is important to our community. And so with that, I'm going to go over to Helen, if you want to close us out with your thoughts, and then we'll close out for today.
I just want to say big shout out to you, Miss Alici, for taking the time out of your day to like share with us about everything that you know, but also because of you, we wouldn't have this series that we have today, and for everything that you have put into for Voices for Justice and all of the things that you have showed us and taught us throughout the time we had been together. It's been a great opportunity, and it's always a great opportunity to be with you, Miss Alici.
Thanks, Helen. With that, I am going to say thank you, everyone. I wish you a great holiday with your family for Thanksgiving. And then we'll see you next week at our next Voices for Justice conversations. Bye, everyone.